Hey, Homebodies, Ashley here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to share with you a new company that I have joined, and I am super excited to share more about it with you. KINS is Physical Therapy Reimagined. It is an all inclusive physical therapy app designed for convenience. Through the KINS app or their website, kins.com, you can check your insurance eligibility. Yes, KINS is in network with most major insurance companies. And you can enter a bit about the problem that you're currently experiencing and then get matched with an expert physical therapy provider. You can even book your first appointment online. Your appointments can be done 100% virtually from the comfort of your own home and will include one-on-one video appointments with a physical therapist and access to a personalized library of exercises, in addition to in-app messaging where you can ask your physical therapist questions at any time. If you aren't familiar with me and my background, I am a physical therapist with over 10 years of experience and specialize in geriatrics, chronic pain, and pelvic health. KINS Virtual Care is especially designed for those experiencing pelvic health concerns, including pregnancy-related pain, birth prep, postpartum care, bowel and bladder issues, pelvic pain, and many more. And if you're wondering if virtual pelvic health physical therapy can actually help, the answer is yes. Recent research has shown that virtual care for pelvic health can be just as effective as in-person care for a variety of conditions. And if you end up needing a referral for an in-person provider, we are happy to help you out with that. If you live anywhere in Massachusetts, you can ask for me, Ashley Drake, and a KINS representative will set you up with an initial visit where we will do a deep dive into your story, your medical background, and then we will come up with a treatment plan that works for you. Hope to see you there. Now on to the episode. Welcome to Haunted Homebodies, where Halloween isn't just a day, it's a lifestyle. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sarah, and we're your guides through the delightfully dark corners of comfort horror.
Grab your PJs and your plane tickets.
Let's see if death really does have a design. Oh, I just finished the movie like an hour ago.
I was looking through your little plot notes that were really funny, and I was like, wait. Okay, because I've seen this. This is a movie that I've watched in the background of life several times since college. And so I found myself just not, I was comfort watching it, which means I was not watching it. So you had a few things in your notes where I was thinking, I don't remember that happening. And they're very memorable things. You were like, the bathroom scene, and I was... There's a bathroom scene? And then I watched a YouTube clip from this YouTuber named James, who does the Dead Meat podcast and YouTube channel. He has literally millions of followers. It's a very successful podcast. And I watched the kill count. He does kill counts for horror movies, and he did one for Final Destination. And he's super good, obviously. Yeah.
Pretty easy to
It
count.
was really funny, and he obviously talked about the bathroom scene on multiple occasions. And I saw it and was... I was like, there is a bathroom scene.
It's just a really aggressive way to introduce us to the characters. I wasn't ready.
I know. There's so many things in this movie where I was thinking, is there no better way to do this to get us there? Because a lot of those things seem to have a purpose. This movie is so much funnier than it should be.
It's hysterical. I wasn't ready for there to be such a paranormal aspect to it also. I thought that would be more of a background thing, but instead there's water leaking from a toilet to go get this guy, and then it creeps back under.
But also, why? Why did it creep back?
Right? That's the really... What was it
creeping
trying to
toward?
hide?
Sure, there's all of those elements of setting off the chain and getting the process going, which the water makes sense for, and something this movie does throughout the entire Final Destination series is it will do these like red herrings. Like you think this is going to happen and then it doesn't. Like, oh, you think he's going to slip while he's like shaving or shaving like his clean shaven face that doesn't have any hair on it. And you think, you know, maybe that's going to happen and it doesn't. Yeah. But then, yeah, after the water goes back and you're like
why does Death care what it looks like?
Death doesn't like mess. He's like, no mess. Too wet. I'm thinking it's all about Death has a design, right? That's the premise of this whole movie. Death has a design for us all. If you mess with it, it's then going to come back for you, possibly harder than you were originally going to go.
But with a really specific set of rules.
Very specific, and like ones that are not consistently followed at all. You have to suspend your disbelief on so many levels in this movie, and I'm fine with it pretty much.
Absolutely.
Because it is so extreme in everything, making no sense, that it works. Yeah. It works. If it was like half trying to be like serious and these are the rules and this is how you follow them, and then the other half was like how the movie is, that wouldn't work.
It'd be awful.
Right?
Yeah.
This worked. It was all silly all the way, but it does have some pretty gruesome moments. It's pretty gross. It's not like light on the horror here.
There's like a lot of blood. There's a decapitation.
There is a full-on decapitation, not even at the neck. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I mean, this was your first time watching, right?
I did not think it was my first time, and then I watched it, and what I have definitely seen is whatever one of the sequels ruined all of us millennials for driving
the second one.
Trucks with logs. I've seen the second one. I have definitely never seen this one.
Final Destination does play on the visceral fears we all have, going to the dentist, laying on an acupuncture table, like these things where you don't always think about the worst case scenario unless you have anxiety. Like this movie feels like it was either written to torture people with anxiety or like as a love letter to them.
Fair.
I don't know which. I don't know which. It probably depends on your mood that day.
Yeah. Also, like people with intrusive thoughts. Like this is very. I know we kept seeing him have premonitions, but I just kept thinking about like that's just someone who has these intrusive thoughts about like what if this terrible thing happened? What if this terrible thing happened? What if? And I was like, we're just seeing the ones where he was right.
That's true. Because they do establish at the beginning of the movie, the other thing about this movie is it's one that used to just be on cable a lot. So it's one where I would jump in maybe at like minute 15, halfway through, just watch the ending. And then it's an all-day marathon. So you're like, oops, I watched 5 of them. But seeing the actual opening, I haven't seen that many times. And they do establish that, what is his name? Alex, yeah. Alex, okay. Not memorable in any other names. I can't remember. I can't keep them straight. But Alex is very paranoid. He certainly does not seem to be a typical teenage boy. He is nervous about getting on the plane. He's very, what's the word when you're superstitious?
Yeah.
I am not superstitious, and it really bothers people. People will be like, knock on wood, and I'm like, no. And then
I am people.
Yes, and I've started to just do it because I've made people so uncomfortable, and I'm like, there's no reason, I guess, to put my foot down and not knock on wood.
Ashley, you don't know.
I tell people every time they question me that I shockingly do not control the universe. So
don't sell yourself short.
Thank you. You're like, you are actually in charge.
You are. I need someone to be in charge. So,
oh man,
I've appointed you.
Let me ask you. That's a terrible idea. Let me ask you a question. Would you want to know if we do all have a design? Would you want to know yours? Would you want to know when you're going to die? Would you want to know how you're going to die? Like, could you handle, like, if there was a piece of mail that came to all of our houses that had this information, are you opening it or are you throwing it in the shredder, burning it?
I am absolutely not opening it, and I hesitate to go a little deep on what I think is going to be one of our absolute silliest, giggliest
Yeah.
episodes. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that part of what makes life so beautiful is you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I was like, this question is really deep, but it is like kind of the crux of this movie
It
of like,
is.
can you cheat death? Like, if you know you're going to die, like how like much are you willing to fight for to live? And I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
all about it's literally just all about death, which a lot of horror is, but
Mm-hmm.
it does take it this step further of I don't know, as if death is this being that is I don't know. It's just it's really intense.
Very persnickety
I
being.
right, really persnickety. I think personally, I would not be able to open the letter. Would I
Okay.
want to know? No. Would I have to open the letter if it came to my person? Yeah, I would.
I respect
And
it.
then that brings a whole nother conversation of, well, what do you do with that information?
Mm-hmm.
Can you change it? Can I cheat death? Final Destination, Ashley edition. All right, well, let me tell you the little stats on Final Destination because we should at least say that we're talking
Please
about Final
do.
Destination. It was released on March 17th, 2000.
Yikes.
And like I said, it'll be the next one in the franchise, Final Destination 6, Bloodlines, will be released on May 16th, the same day that you're hopefully listening to this. Our day one listeners. Hey,
Hi, thank
you're
you so
awesome.
much.
You rule. Google categorizes this movie as a horror fantasy. Okay, sure, whatever.
Always gotta be mixing the genres.
Fantasy is wild, I think, to use in this context, but okay. I don't think they have a word for paranormal or anything,
Oh
I guess.
yeah.
So they're just like
Yeah.
fantasy because ghosts aren't real. Ghosts are real. Google it.
I don't even know if we've got a ghost in this movie. I don't know. I
It's
don't know what we have.
yeah, it's more of a ghost story than it is a fantasy story,
All right, I'll
is
allow
what I'm
it.
saying.
Yeah.
Thank you. Final Destination was rated 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, ouch, and 88% of Google's users like this. Where do these stats come from? Where do the Google users liking it stats come from? Like, how do they create that?
I have literally no idea.
That is high.
That is high, but this is exactly the type of movie we talked about liking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is the critics
Yep.
did a very good and appropriate job in saying
And doing their job,
this
yeah.
is not a good movie, but it is an enjoyable movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did we have fun? Yes. Will we watch it again? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It's currently streaming on HBO Max. I do not remember specifically the first time I saw this movie, but like I said, I've watched it a lot, and I watched it a lot in college, and I do have a specific memory. My sophomore year of college, my friends and I had a like full Final Destination marathon. We had like a whole sleeping bag style setup in our little triple room. It was pretty big for a college, but it was in a I'm trying to think. The building was something that had been converted. I want to say a church, which
Oh,
feels creepy, and it probably
yeah.
should have been. Nothing fun happened there.
Oh,
Aside from
sorry.
this movie marathon. But this movie, for that reason, and since it's just something that I've just had on in the background through many chapters of my life, it just gives me the warm fuzzies. Like the college, watching movie days with your friends, just being in
Mm-hmm.
college, getting to see your friends every single day. Ugh, I miss that so
Magical.
much. All right. Our first topic of conversation, the formula. We've kind of touched on this already, but we know from the movies that there is this butterfly effect style mass casualty of epic proportions in Final Destination, this movie that we're talking about, the first one. There
Mm-hmm.
is a plane crash. I was going to, I don't remember why or, okay, I remember where I was going with this. I came to visit you
Yes.
a month ago, 2 months ago, a little over a month ago. And I was going to suggest that we record this in person as we've established. The timing is like messing with my head because we've just done a lot of changing and rearranging. But I remember that I was planning on watching this movie before coming to see you, and then I was thinking like I
Oh.
truly cannot get on a plane after watching this movie. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
And yeah, apparently you are.
I guess
And
so.
I mean, that would just make it terrifying. Also, we've been referring to it as a plane crash, but like,
Mm.
let's be real. That plane did not crash. That plane
No,
was
it's true.
obliterated
It
in the
exploded
sky. I
in the
don't know if any
sky.
part of it even landed back on the earth after that.
Just little dusty, fiery remnants. That
Yeah.
is very true. Um, so what do you think? Can you imagine? So you saw this for the first time, but you couldn't have, you know how these movies work, right? Like
Yeah.
you had a
Yeah.
basic understanding. Like I think if you are alive and watch movies but at all, you kind of have expectations of what Final Destination is.
Yeah.
So with that being taken away, this unknown, like that shock factor of, oh, there's this premonition aspect, and we learned like a lot of the so-called rules of death. Do you
Hmm.
think like why did this keep coming back? Like why did we all keep coming back for more? Why have there now been 5 movies, almost 6 movies, knowing that it's so formulaic in a way?
Hmm. That is a very good question. For me, it's the camp.
Yeah,
It's a campy movie. It's just absurd and silly the entire time,
it
and
is.
I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Part of what they do well in the sequels, and the sequels are of as many franchises go, varying in their quality and enjoyment, and they do all follow kind of the basic premise, and the it does feel very repetitive, especially if you do a movie marathon of them, let me tell you.
Oh my
But
God,
what
I'm
they do
sure.
really well is they come up with very creative, like it's this creative way of how can you create this like mousetrap-esque death scene and coming up with
Yeah.
all of these, you're wondering, like you know that these people are going to die and you know they're going to
Mm-hmm.
die one by one
Mm-hmm.
and you
Mm-hmm.
know it's going to be gruesome, and they, as the sequels go on, I would say they get more gruesome, uh for
Ooh.
better or worse depending on what you're into. But there is that creativity aspect where I think the writers challenge themselves to be like, how can we come up with a new way? You know, like at the eye doctors, like I said, at the dentist, and then you think something's going to happen here, and then it actually happens in this other absurd way.
Oh.
So they do get creative with it, and I appreciate that. And then there is that comfort aspect too, right? That repetitive isn't always bad. It can be kind of comforting if you know to an extent what to expect, more so than just what is this movie gonna be like? Like where are our boundaries? Is it gonna be funny? Is it gonna be super dark? Like you're not going to a Final Destination movie concerned that it's gonna be really dark and disturbing.
Right, right. There's also something about this where there's no jump scares. Like even the rather abrupt, like when that girl gets hit by a bus, like
Mm.
that didn't like it's not this it didn't get the adrenaline pumping.
No.
And there are comfort horror watches that can do that, but there's something about this that's just like, yeah, I want to watch a bunch of people die and I am not going to feel fear in my heart for 1 second.
The pacing is really interesting in that way because it is very gradual, right? There's like this
Yes.
slow build up to each of the deaths, and there aren't really that many deaths in terms of horror if you're really looking at the scope of where some like slasher kind
Oh
of
yeah.
movies go. I mean, aside from like the plane crash, but we're, in terms of that was a lot,
It's not the
a
point
lot
of the
more
movie.
than,
Yeah.
but right, yeah, we kind of move on from how half the school died pretty quickly.
Well, speaking of the pacing, so I
Yeah,
was
the
watching this
pacing.
movie thinking like, wow, this movie is long. Like I feel like they could have
Yeah,
cut half of this movie. And then I
so
went and looked
short.
at it. It's like an hour
It's so
and a
short.
half long.
It's a very typical, yeah, 90
Yeah.
minute movie.
Like
But you're
just
right, it does
yeah.
not have this um pace that most horror movies have where they'll like build up so much tension, and you're like, I cannot take this anymore. And then they break the tension. You have a very brief break in most movies, and then it gets right back into it. This movie was like slowly build up, kind of tense, drop back down. Slowly build up again. And then there were moments where also it's just like bam, but it's comical. It's comically done. Yeah, it's interesting. But one thing that I struggled with that I mentioned was when I was trying to gather my thoughts on this movie, I could not remember any of the characters' names. Like, just not super memorable. There's a few actors and actresses in this movie that I like, but not, all-star performances by anyone except for maybe Tony Todd, because he's always an all-star. I just love him.
Wait, who is that?
Was it the Morticia? Morticia Adams, the mortician who's like embalming the patient.
Oh, he is very good.
Yeah, and he was Candyman. He's in a bunch of horror movies, and he's just always, he's so good because he's so creepy, but he still has that like sense of humor that's like very grotesque. He's great.
Can we talk about the morgue for a second? Why was it in like a tomb?
Why were they there? That was another one where we're talking about, like, was there no other way to get them to Tony Todd in the morgue? It was something like Alex wanted to see if he could like feel or see anything with Todd. It was after Todd died.
Yeah.
And so we have to go look at his dead corpse.
Right.
For inspiration.
Bizarre. And then the mortician is kind of like, it's fine that you guys are here.
He's like, actually, let me traumatize you further. Death is coming for you. You cannot escape it. You should probably just give up. See you later. Love it.
That was about it.
He's not a harbinger. He's like, oh, like, there's no warning. Like, you're not. Yeah. You're toast.
Well, in fairness, a harbinger is not needed in this movie because the foreshadowing.
They've been harbinged.
We will talk about the foreshadowing.
That is true. So there is one character who I remembered aside from Tony Todd. It's Clear Rivers. What a name. Mostly just because her name is Clear Rivers and because she's played by Ali Larter, who is
love her
90s icon.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great. And she's good in this movie.
She is.
Her character's odd. As are they all in this. She's I don't know. She's giving kind of like Bella Swan energy a little.
Oh yes.
Like I'm reading literature in the airport and I'm quiet and I'm kind of coy.
Very uncomfortable all the time.
But like I'm really pretty, so
you're spot on.
I also don't know if you noticed, she has a German Shepherd, cool, and she welds. She's a welder.
Notice that, which I feel like they only set up so they could give us that weird AF scene about the sculpture that she made. Where she's like, it isn't you, Alex, but it is you. And I can't even remember what else that was. The strangest scene in the entire movie.
And there are some strange scenes, but you're right.
Yeah.
They have such a weird vibe. But
very much so.
They're kind of all each other has, because she's the only one who believes Alex for a while. Everyone else thinks he is a psycho killer.
I don't blame them.
No.
Speaking of Alex, we should acknowledge that he is played by Devon Sawa.
Yeah, we should acknowledge that.
Was Casper.
Yes, he was. He was. I did not know that. I watched the new Chucky sci-fi show.
Oh.
And he is in, like, I think every season, but I believe he plays a different character in every season, if I'm remembering correctly. It's one of those kind of shows where they're like, it's fine. He can be like the evil stepdad and then like the president of the United States. No one cares.
Love that he's still doing like a horror Halloween thing. He's really stuck with it.
Yeah. For many years. And he is one who
the way he looks in Casper, the way he looks in this movie, and the way he looks in Chucky, if you told me those were the same people and I didn't know that they were, I would be like, absolutely not. There's no way. That is not how aging works. I don't understand. He looks like three distinct humans.
Did not have the incredible spiky unicorn horn bangs.
Love it. I love it. Bring those back.
90s.
Yeah, so great.
This
so
movie
great.
Came out in 2000, didn't it? So it was like probably filmed in the 90s.
Yeah,
it counts.
yeah.
It counts.
That 2000 was still very much 90s
Real.
energy.
Did not leave that behind.
We had not transitioned to the world we now live in. That's for sure. Got through Y2K and, here we are. Great movie to be released around Y2K.
I know. Like right after that.
Mm-hmm.
We all had a lot of fear and still do, I guess. Going deep.
In general. Yeah. At a baseline.
It's never gotten better.
No, not really. No, maybe a little worse in many ways.
Okay, I want to make my joke that I wrote for this, that the alternative title to this movie should just be called Foreshadowing the Movie.
Wait a second. I totally misunderstood that. I thought you looked it up and that was actually a proposed alternate title. You know how we do that sometimes? Like Joyride is supposed to be called Roadkill.
Oh no.
This is supposed to be called Foreshadowing, and I was like, really?
No, it's just
clever.
What it's called in my mind.
But no, you're right, because this movie, foreshadowing is an established part of telling a story, right?
Sure.
This movie is like, let's remove any subtlety whatsoever. We need to crank the subtlety down to a 0, and we need to just outright say this person's about to die, and maybe even how they're about to die. It's not even a nod. It's just like they're saying something and you're like, oh, okay, they're about to die.
Maybe that is one of the things that's so comforting about this. Like you rewatch things because it's some of the reasons you rewatch things instead of watch new things is because it is comforting to know what's coming up, what's going to happen. And this movie, even the first time you watch it, tells you what's going to happen next. You know what's happening.
That's so true. They're like, here it is. Here's the next scene, folks.
Be
mentally prepare yourself. It's funny in a lot of ways. There's the scene. We're gonna talk about the deaths because there's so few that we can talk about all of them.
Yeah.
And they're all, that's what the whole movie is, right? Is orchestrating these different deaths and them trying to avoid them and then not being able to. But the one with the teacher, who's another bizarre character, like she, like at the funeral, Alex says something to her and she's like, get away from me, you terrify me. Like,
so like one of
calm
the
down,
notes
ma'am.
that I wrote down while watching this movie was, so everybody's an asshole, and I was inspired to write that because it was the airport scene when they're like about to take off or they're like arriving at the airport and that weird unidentified religious man tries to give them a pamphlet and she like turns back to him and mouths like fuck you or something, and I was like, oh, okay, like that felt really unnecessary, especially for a teacher.
Right. Oh man, so when she like during her death scene, she also is just like, hers is like super bizarre. She's like pouring herself, I don't know, she's having like tea and or vodka or
it's just vodka. Tea. It was straight vodka over ice cubes in a mug.
Okay, and then she sees the mug and she screams and flings the vodka because it's like it's her school mug. So she's like, the school's scary. Me? I
don't remember what happened that scared her with the mug, but the vodka became a thing because it just the mug spontaneously cracked and then it dripped and then she carried it around the house and didn't realize it was dripping, and she created this perfect line of vodka drips so that they could all catch on fire.
Which I also learned from the video on the Dead Meat YouTube channel that alcohol only catches fire when it's like a 151 proof or above. So they made these bizarre turns.
She was going really hard with the drinking
she's
that
like,
night.
this is actually moonshine that I've poured into the vodka bottle.
Everclear.
And I brewed out back in a shoe.
I've not thought about Everclear in a decade or so.
I don't ever want to think about it again, so we're gonna move right on. What was your favorite foreshadowing moment of the movie? Do you have one?
So, yes. The toilet dripping in Todd's bathroom. And one of my favorite reasons is because it's so obvious it's going to play a part in his death. Because, like you said, no subtlety. But also because while this movie is so heavy in the foreshadowing, it's not... It doesn't foreshadow something at the beginning of the movie that you're going to see in the middle or the end. It foreshadows something that you're going to see happen 3 minutes later.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things. Plus, I just felt like this movie had a really strange obsession with toilets.
The arc that poor Todd had.
Todd, who was a good guy. He was a good guy.
He seemed like one of the least terrible of the movie.
Yeah.
He was just one of the poop beds, and then he died in the bathroom. That was his whole arc, was toilet to toilet. Well, he was in the bathtub, technically.
It was the toilet's fault, though.
Also, according to the credits, Todd with 1D. I don't know why that struck me so much, but...
Well, that is relevant to the... Sorry, this is so fresh in my mind, having literally just watched it. That is relevant to the movie, and they needed it to be 1D because that's how Alex knows that Todd has died, because he's like ripping up a piece of paper or something, or like something happens, there's a scrap of paper, and it was the word today, but it just like got ripped out, so it just says Todd with 1G, and that's how he knows Todd died.
Love the way they wrote this movie, where they were like, it's Todd because of, like, to make that work. Like, they probably couldn't come up with, he had a different name maybe, and they're like, well, there isn't any word that is
that is what letters. I'm saying.
That's so funny. Well, then there's other names in the movie that are choices. Some of them are direct nods to horror. I found out. So there's Billy Hitchcock, who's
love it,
played by Sean William Scott. So I don't know if the Billy is a Billy Loomis thing or not, but Hitchcock obviously is a very prolific, famous horror director, horror thriller, psychological. I don't know what you'd classify him as, but we all know who he is.
Yeah.
And other characters had last names of other horror directors.
I love it.
Yeah, there were all of these little, they weren't even subtle nods, but then there was Detective Shrek.
What? I couldn't get over that.
Yeah, so that was a horror director's name, I guess. Not one I'm familiar with. And it was also before Shrek was Shrek.
All right, so, fine.
But then obviously now he forever is just Detective Shrek.
Detective Shrek.
It's like
indeed.
Wow. Okay. If there was any chance of us taking you seriously, it is over. Big time.
I think there was very little chance of that in the first place.
Well, let's
talk about Billy Hitchcock.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was like, we need to talk more about Billy Hitchcock and him being played by Sean William Scott, because I love him, I think.
Yeah, and he was like adorable. I mean, we're obviously also used to him playing this like super obnoxious character, and he was such a little weird sweetie in this movie.
I know. I like him a lot in this movie, and I found out that the director James Wong was not sure about casting him just because of him not typically playing this kind of role.
Fair.
And then he auditioned and they liked his vibe, and then he became very famous as Stifler, and that helped this movie because they're like, oh, Stifler's in it, I'm gonna go see it. And because American Pie had come out, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so before this. It was very, very close.
Wow.
And he was one of the more likable characters, but yeah, he was kind of seemed he's supposed to be a dork, but he seemed, I don't know. That was it, I guess. That was
underdeveloped characters all around,
as they are.
Yeah.
But he was gifted with one of the most wild death scenes, I think, possibly in the whole franchise. So, this was when we're talking about foreshadowing, like the time where you're just like, oh no, like what's gonna happen to Billy? Because Carter, who we haven't talked about, he's the school asshole, and he is, I mean, I think the acting by that, I don't remember the actor's name, but very effective.
Jack Kerr.
Okay, because he's in, what else is he in?
He was in Dawson's Creek. And other things around this time.
Okay. But he nailed it. He was very hateable, very awful, very stereotypical, but he was being reckless, as he's one of the people who's, he's on death's list, and he is like, you know what, now that I know, like, I'm never gonna die, but also I'm gonna put myself and others into life-threatening situations constantly
for no reason.
So he, parks them all on a train track, and the train's coming, and they're all like, don't do it this way. And then at the end, he's like, it's not my time. I'm going to go. But the car won't start. Classic. So Alex ends up saving Carter. And then Billy, who was also with them, and Clear's there as well. Clear's pretty much always there.
They could have named her Claire, but they named her Clear.
Clear. It's so hard to say. Clear is there. So Billy is freaking out because Carter's being such a jerk. And I have to read the quote that he yells, which, I wonder what's going to happen to Billy after this. Oh, you will be. You're dead. You're dead. And you're not taking me with you. Boom. No. Decapitated.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Oh, tough.
And I will give it the most unexpected death also. And
I did not think it was going to happen that way.
No,
that wasn't on my bingo card.
Plus, all the other deaths were not all of them, many of the other deaths were very multi-aspect. Todd, there was the toilet water, and then he knocked over the soap in the shower, so it was all slippery, and then he had to knock something else over to get the thing wrapped. That was a whole thing. And the poor teacher who gets who
she was like a pincushion,
exploding computer screen that gets her jugular, but then also the house there's all multiple, and
knives,
this was just random piece of oh my god, I forgot about the knives.
But that was overkill.
I kind of feel like Billy was lucky.
That's true.
Just
very
real quick decapitation.
Same with Terry. Just a boom. Was that her name? The bus girl.
I have no idea what her name was, but you're right. She did also get a quick one.
Yeah. I read an article that I thought was bizarre and didn't really clear up enough. It created more questions than it answered, which is not what articles typically are there to do. But Sean William Scott's older brother was watching the movie in theaters, and after he was decapitated, freaked out, went to the bathroom, vomited, and was terrified that he was in fact dead. Called his mom and said, Sean's dead, and she's like, it's a movie. And then he tried to call Sean, and he was being his mom, I don't know, must have told him, and he didn't answer his call to try to freak him out more. nice younger brother thing. But yeah, that's not how acting works.
It's just the year 2000, guys.
I know.
That's all right.
They're just oh, he accidentally got decapitated while filming. No, we might as well keep it in. It was a cool
just left
shot.
It in. Didn't make any news stories. They just shot this yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's in theaters now.
Yeah, I didn't follow up on that.
All right. I have questions, but I don't need them answered, I don't think.
Yeah. I just was well, that's interesting.
All right. Yeah. Great.
Our next little bullet point, I don't think really has anything that we didn't already cover, aside from death just being super petty, and also
Petty is right.
Right? Just some bizarre personality quirks. Like we talked about the toilet water, and then I don't know, Death is giving me like a male energy. So I'm gonna say like he decides to retract the toilet water for whatever reason. He's very shadowy.
Yeah.
He's like always like gusting. He's just like gusty winds. Then Death's
Loves the
coming.
storm.
He
Yes.
also just has this little like wingman bestie that we talked about, played by Tony Todd,
Yeah.
who's his name in the movie is William Bloodworth, which is a little on the nose, but cool. And he like, how does he just know all of Death's silly little games? Like, who told you, Mister?
What happens to
Mr.
him after
Bloodworth?
that? He's just in one scene. Oh,
He'll
does
be
he
back.
come back? All right.
I think he may
All
be
right.
in this newest one.
Oh.
I thought possibly he
I
had
am
died
not
in
gonna
one
have
of
time to
these.
watch the 4 movies in between.
Yeah, you're gonna be all right.
I
You're
feel
all right.
confident I will be. Yeah.
Clear is back in the second one. I don't think it's not a big legacy character one, but he may be the
it
most.
shouldn't be a big legacy character one.
Fair. Oh yeah, there's only so many times you can cheat death, I suppose.
Yes, indeed.
Right. It's time for a little game that I planned here. We are going to rank the deaths of the 5 main characters who we watched come and go on the movie. So I'll just run through the 5 first and just give you a little refresh. I think we've talked about all of them at this point. But there was Todd, 1D.
Yeah.
Alex's poopin' pal. James on Dead Meat. Obviously, I love this video.
That's good.
He called him his poopin' pal. And I was like,
perfect.
Yep, that's great. So
I was really distracted by that, like from the beginning of the movie on. So thank you, James.
I mean, I did not notice that in the 20 times I've seen this movie. I've just glazed right over that part. But yeah, now I am very well versed in all of the poop action in the movie. He gets strangled in his bathroom. Then we have Terry, who was one of the quicker deaths. She screams like, "Get over it," and then abruptly gets hit by a bus in a very like Regina George way, which obviously that happened far after this movie. So Regina George really gets hit in a Terry way.
You say far after, Ashley. I think like 5 years max after. Like Mean Girls came out a long time ago.
That was a
pain
sound that just came out of me. I was like, oh.
I knew I was doing that to you. 2004. So it came out 4 years after that.
Well, regardless, it was after this. And quick fun fact, I'm just going to move right on. This was, I guess, one of the earlier times that this kind of like abrupt, jarring bus squish, I'm trying to say, squished by a bus, just that kind of scene had happened. And so right after that scene in the movie, there is a scene of them, Clear and Alex both separately like chugging Alka-Seltzer, like preparing and drinking Alka-Seltzer, which seems very pointless and strange. Like, yeah, we know they're stressed out. You don't need to like lay it out there for us. And I guess that was because test audiences were so like freaked out by the bus scene that they like needed a moment. So they suggested that like they put in a beat there to just let people like decompress with their Alka-Seltzer.
So I just feel like our generation is screwed.
We're so desensitized. It really made me think, because I was like, I did not care. I thought it was funny. I'm supposed to
We're
be
literally
like,
about
deeply
to rank
disturbed.
these from best to worst. Best death. And like wow.
I know.
Ooh.
That really, I had the same exact reaction where I was like, huh. Disturbing. Okay.
This movie was hysterical to me.
I find plenty of things disturbing in horror, and there are things I do not like in movies I will not watch.
Sure.
That was like ooh. Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
All right. So we're going to skip the Alka-Seltzer. Anyway, next we have Miss Lutton. Is that what her name is? With her like haunted coffee cup of vodka, a block of knives, fire, exploding things, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Then we have Billy, the train side decapitation we just talked about. And then Carter, we haven't gotten there, but the closing scene of the movie, he gets like literally the closing shot is him presumably dying by getting squished by a swinging sign.
That was a choice. That was
yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the ending briefly.
Great.
But for now, we are going to rank them from number 1 to number 5. I think I've already said that Billy's is my number 1. That is just,
I think it's good. I think it's like I think it's a bit more unexpected than other ones. I am just gonna say what's in my head because we're already talking about best deaths. It was kind of a fun decapitation.
I really wasn't ready for that from you. But it was unexpected enough. It was gruesome but tasteful.
I don't know about tasteful.
It was well executed. It was a good scene.
It was. And I feel like body it had just like standing up and then collapsing later.
Yeah. It had the right amount of like silliness. It was quick, but also they had built up to it a little bit. It was like a bit of a plot twist from us thinking that like something's gonna happen to Carter to then just like quickly moving on to.
If there was any moment of tension in the movie, it was Alex trying to get Carter out of the car. So like we were like coming down from that. Also, the lack of substantial reaction from the other characters to their friend being decapitated in front of them.
Agreed. Claire just like buries her head in Alex and they're just like, hoo.
Nobody screams. Like it was so weird.
I always think screaming in horror movies, especially in like the 70s and 80s, is way overdone because I'm like people who are terrified are not screaming. Like their bodies are not letting out blood curdling screams while they're running and fleeing.
Oh yeah, no.
You know, like their bodies are like busy doing other things like surviving. But this would be a situation where I don't know, like scream, projectile vomit. I don't know, something
I would have
happen.
A reaction.
I would hope so. I mean, we've already established that we are concerned about our our really high threshold for these sort of things.
That's so fair.
Anyway, so are you in agreement? Billy,
I'm in agreement. 1? Billy is number 1. Yeah.
I don't have a number 2, so I'm like thinking about this on the fly here. I have a number 5. I have I don't know. Do you have a number 2? Do you have a clear number 2?
I want to go with the teacher. That was just so incredibly over the top. Like, the coffee mug split to vodka drip pathway to vodka in the computer to computer explosion, computer screen hits the jugular, and that is just one of the things that kills her. Like it's so over the top.
Yeah. I think for that reason I didn't like hers. Like she's my number 5 because
interesting.
It was too much and it was like I'm gonna say something ridiculous. It was too hard to believe. Okay. It was just like, this would never happen. Even in the world that is Final Destination, it was still, like you said, it was so many things that happened. And also, I felt like the way that they treated her, like she was a bad character and was like unnecessarily rude. But like, whoa.
So, like, not only would it never happen, it didn't need to happen. This was like Death feeling himself or something, being like, look what I can do.
Death was like having a good day, and he's like, I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say...
sorry.
No, you go.
Just really quickly before we move on from her, I don't know if you noticed, but... after her entire house blows up, like... 2 hours later, maybe it's the next day, they have apparently found Alex's fingerprints and boot prints, bloody boot prints in that house that exploded.
They also jump through all these hoops to establish Alex as like, oh, the feds think he's orchestrating and killing all these people. They're making it so obvious. He pulls the knife out of her, like she's so dead, and then he just rips the knife, you know, and it's really just to establish like, oh, now his fingerprints are on it, and then like nothing ever comes of that. Eventually they just come around and they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't him.
They just like keep letting him go and like not watching him, and like they're not actually that worried about it. It's bizarre. He would absolutely be suspect number one. He is so sus.
Yes, extremely sus. And then is making all these choices to make him seem even more sus.
Yes.
That would have been a plot twist, that it really was him all along, and he was like setting these elaborate mousetrappy things and then just like going to watch.
I want Final Destination 7 to be about
there
that.
We go.
I don't have
Maybe that's
for
what this
6,
one will be.
But 7. Yeah.
I think my number 2 is going to be Carter. I liked that one. It was simple. Thought it was a fun way to end the movie. Nobody likes him. He had like a cheesy closing line while he's about to get squished.
All right. We're going to talk about the ending more. Okay. I'm going to save it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're about to get there. I'm just gonna pick on the fly here because I think we've talked about all of these deaths. So I'm gonna say, so Billy's my number 1, Carter's my number 2. I think I'm gonna say Terry's 3. I guess I'm into like the simple, like a simple ones. Then Todd, then Miss Lutton is last place.
Yeah, I'm with you. On all of those except Miss Latin. I'm just gonna bump her up, and then everybody else can follow suit. Know. The Carter one kind of bores me. Maybe I'm just switching the two of them.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Different deaths for different really deranged people on this pod.
Seriously. So we need to talk about the ending. I need to know your thoughts. My primary thought was, 1, wow, they not only got up on a plane and went to Paris, so I guess we're saying we're not superstitious anymore.
Months later,
6 months.
6 months after
and they are
this.
Not confident that they have cheated death.
No.
Not confident. So, but you know, they just are like, well, let's see. And then also they have not learned to like maybe be aware of where streets with cars are. Alex almost gets hit by a bus again.
Also,
and we don't need foreshadowing.
Why
it happened.
Are Alex and Clear hanging out with Carter? He has been a dick to them.
He did not have a redeeming moment. Nope,
Never.
He did not get like a, yeah, like I'm sorry, or I'll save. Like he does end up saving Alex in the scene and then dying as a result. But that was the only redeeming thing we saw Carter do the entire movie, from what I recall.
Awful.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. And also, finally, Clear and Alex are like in love.
Like,
okay,
did we
so
have
you feel
to?
The same way.
Also,
exactly.
Of course, though, she had to get a little glow up first. She has dyed her hair.
Okay, so I don't know that was intentional, and I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me.
There was an original ending to the movie. That was not this, and I am about to blow your mind because I read this earlier today and was like, excuse me, what? I'm opening up the Reddit page because I do not want to butcher the mastery. I can't believe this. Hold on. I'm like so excited. I don't even know how to use a computer anymore. Oh, this is so weird. Like, we thought this movie was weird. Okay. Let's see. So I came across this article because I had the same feeling at the end of the movie. Like, Alex and Clear. So we kind of get at the beginning, it seems like Alex has a crush on her. She's obviously crushable. She's cool. They have some sort of psychic connection.
Sure.
A little bit of maybe like a thing going. But then at the movie theater, like I don't think they've kissed or anything. And then at the movie theater, what do I say? Then at the end of the movie, she's calling him like baby or something, and I was like, ew, what? Okay, so that was not the original movie ending, as I said. Let me read. This is on Reddit. I'm back on my bullshit. Okay. So we know before going to Paris, Alex has saved Clear, and I don't even know how to describe it. He gets electrocuted so that she can live.
Yeah, I truly don't understand.
You've got to be
there.
You've got to be there.
Yeah.
In the original ending, Alex was dead. He dies from being electrocuted. Yeah,
as one does.
No big deal.
Yep.
Okay. NBD. Right, like kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what the Reddit poster says. There's a little bit more before that, but I'm gonna read it verbatim, and I'll link in the show notes. I don't remember word for word, but basically when the police got there at the end, she handed one of them a pregnancy test and said, "He's saving 2 lives." So it wasn't just that, death was defeated. It was defeated because there was new life. And it ends with like Clear and Carter standing at Alex's grave with Clear holding their baby child that they conceived at some point. I don't know. There was, I think, another deleted scene where they like, I'm trying to think of my mom listens to this podcast. It's because they're like boning on the beach.
Sorry, Kim.
They have unprotected relations on the beach and apparently conceive a child because they're fertile little teenagers who probably think they're going to die anyway. So her child survives all of this stress and mayhem, and that's how they defeat death, is with new life. So,
wow.
so to bring you back here, I do want your thoughts on that, but I'll give you a minute to digest. So I don't know exactly. I think this is another test audience thing, maybe, where they're like, it will just be better. I don't know. They weren't vibing with that ending or something, so they reshot and did this like very expensive reshoot of the ending, and it was like months later. So they had all like moved on with their lives. So I think Allie Leonard just like went back to being blonde as she is, and they were just like, fine. But it was like a very long time later
because
a
lot to take in.
It was not the original ending.
A teenage pregnancy. So she's just survived one trauma, and she's like, but let me live through another one.
I don't. And like, why was Carter there? Like, don't tell me you're like with Carter now. I don't know. We have a lot of questions about that. But all in all, I didn't think that this relationship needed to happen.
It did not.
Or, as it stands, did not need to happen. That's very clear. Or they should have just like developed it at all, aside from her being like, this weird sculpture is you, but not you. But it is you, and we are all you, if you know. What
it is like very of the time. Like, name a movie back then where there was a main male and a main female character where they didn't end up together at the end.
Yeah,
like
that's what it feels. It feels so like the obligatory romance plot line, but it's like for this movie, we didn't even really know it was there. This was the only subtle thing about the movie. But then they kind of like almost made the whole ending about it. The resolution was almost their relationship.
I am blown away.
Yeah. And on one interesting note, this was the first episode where we did not talk about anyone being hot, I think.
I was thinking that going into this today.
I was like, you know what? I was not attracted to a single person in this movie.
No, it was kind of refreshing. And you know what? I think we might be safe for the next episode also.
What's our next episode?
Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, you'll be fine. That's not the vibe.
Yeah. Then we're in big trouble for Joyride, though.
Oh, man. That will be a hard right turn.
Yeah.
Into Hotsville. Okay, that's it for today's Comfort Horror Recap. Sweet dreams, homebodies.
And now it's time for your bedtime story.
Welcome back to the new segment of the podcast where I get to traumatize Sarah with some sort of terrifying paranormal story.
I'm still here.
She's still here. She's coming back for more. And this story is the perfect transition after discussing Final Destination because we're going to be talking about a haunted graveyard. I mean, haunted and graveyard does seem a bit redundant, right? It's like it's a graveyard. It's a graveyard. A lot of people who have passed away are there. But this one has some incredibly rich lore, which I'm going to tell you about, and that maybe you'll enjoy. Question mark.
We'll find out. Fun. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to see if this is really as enjoyable as I think it's going to be. Anyway, the name of the graveyard is La Recoleta, and it is located in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was opened in 1822 and became the final resting place for many of Argentina's elite. And in addition to being pretty well known for its paranormal activity, it is also very architecturally beautiful. So a lot of people will just go to look at the mausoleums and sightsee. So it's kind of attracts all kinds, all kinds of people. It's also enormous. It spans over 14 acres.
Ooh.
This is like all mausoleums too. This isn't like little gravestones or anything.
Okay, it's a lot of dead people.
Yes, and it's very like labyrinth-like. You know, there's these little paths through everything, and there's like Art Deco buildings, neo-Gothic mausoleums. I didn't really know what any of this means. If you're interested in our show notes for Final Destination, I did put one of the mausoleums that we're going to be talking about, so you can kind of get a sense of like a visual of what we're talking about here. It's very pretty. It's eerie, but pretty. But let's get into the reason we're here, which of course is the ghost stories. So first, I'm going to tell you about here comes my Spanish. La Dama de Blanco, aka the Lady in White. The story goes something like this. A young man was visiting the cemetery, and while there, he met a young woman. He offered her his coat as a gentlemanly gesture, as she seemed a bit cold. They continued a brief, friendly exchange, and the man eventually left, but they promised to meet each other the following day so she could return the jacket to him. But when he returned the next day, he looked all around the cemetery but could not find her. Eventually, ready to give up his search, he caught a glimpse of his jacket out of the corner of his eye. It was draped carefully across the statue on the mausoleum, and as he walked toward it, he looked around, hoping once again to see the young woman, but no one was there. Under the jacket, he was stunned when he saw the name etched into the side of the mausoleum. It was the same name the woman had given him the day before.
Ooh.
He had been talking to a ghost. So there are many iterations of the story, some saying they were on a date and were kind of like romantically interested in each other. Others reporting like strange disappearances, like he went missing, then came back. But the kind of common thread is that he was talking to a woman and she was in fact a ghost. A lovely little ghost lady.
The type of interaction I would like to have with a ghost.
Yeah, where you don't know that it's a ghost. You're just like, well, what a lovely person.
Yeah.
The Lady in White is thought to be the ghost of Luz Maria Garcia Belloso, who tragically passed away in 1925 at the very young age of 15 due to leukemia.
Oh, no.
Couldn't find... I'm sure there's more out there about her, but just... sad, but she seems lovely. The Lady in White. I mean, her first really lovely ghost.
Truly.
There are so many that are just lovely. Next, a little less lovely, but can't say I blame her. This is the chilling account of Rufina Cambaceres. So, while the Lady in White is very well known in the lore surrounding La Recoleta, this woman, Rufina Cambaceres, she's probably the most famous apparition there. So let me tell you about her life. It was her 19th birthday. She was beautiful, a debutante. She had her whole life ahead of her. But then she collapsed suddenly. She was laying still on the ground. Her family rushed to her side, and she lay there, unmoving, unresponsive to their pleas. She was pronounced dead by doctors, and as was customary, was dressed in fine clothes and laid to rest in a tomb of spectacular proportion. Later, when a groundskeeper heard scratching sounds coming from the tomb, he assumed he was just hearing things. But after finding the coffin had appeared to move slightly, a closer investigation was undertaken. And what they found was even more shocking than anything they could have imagined. It wasn't grave robbers or curious animals that moved the coffin. It was Rufina.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
I didn't really mask that too well.
Oh.
She was found to be bloodied and bruised and unfortunately dead. She had blood around her fingertips. She had clawed at the inside of her coffin while trying to get out because she had been buried alive.
That's terrifying.
Truly. It was believed that Rufina had likely suffered an episode of what's called catalepsy, a disorder associated with the more well-known disease of narcolepsy. And catalepsy is a neurological condition that causes prolonged muscle rigidity and immobility. Basically, you look like not only have you died, but you have been dead for a while.
Oof.
While it may seem hard to believe that someone could be buried alive, there have been instances recorded of people being pronounced dead or thought to have been dead and then in fact not being. And when you think about it, this was me getting in my head. So here's the trap door to my brain is opening. When you think about it, there really is no way to know just how many times someone has been buried alive.
No, Ashley.
Because more likely than not, they would remain underground until they truly were dead.
It's a real fear.
So sorry. So you're not alone. I'm getting ahead of myself. During this time period, right, we're in the early 1800s, medicine was far from advanced. It could be difficult at times to rule a person truly dead. Like, they kind of knew where the pulses were, they kind of knew what to look for, but they were winging a lot of stuff. And as you are feeling, as we're all feeling, being buried alive is a truly primal, pretty universal fear, something we probably don't think about very much, but when a story comes across our desk, we're like, that is a terrifying possibility. And around this time, because, things were happening, there were people taking steps to prevent this. So I came across something called a safety coffin that had been created around this time period. There were tubes where you could deliver food, ducts to promote airflow, basically created to ease the anxiety of people who worried that they might be buried alive someday. And the Germans, from the article I found, they're just called the Germans, they had come up with several different designs. One which involved fashioning a string that would be attached to the deceased's arms and legs, and that would be affixed to a bell above the ground. You've heard about this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I had heard about this too, but what I did not think about that this article illuminated for me was, it seems like, okay, a very macabre but practical solution to this problem. When someone dies, they are then buried, and over time their corpse will begin to bloat. It will bloat so much that it will cause the body to change position. When the body changes position, the arms and legs will also change position.
Oh, no.
And what's going to happen then? The bell is going to be ringing. Can you imagine walking down a cemetery at night? You're seeing all these little bells around the ground, and then one of them starts to ring. Yeah, the bells are like, oh, that's a good idea. They're like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. All these little jingle jangle bells, and you're digging everybody up.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. So, this is the early 1800s. There is a real mausoleum for Rufina Cambaceres, but the true story has been convoluted over time. Did this really happen?
Did it really go down like this?
Sure.
We're not sure. Do we want to know? Maybe not. Either way.
I'd like to know.
Well, if it didn't happen, that would be great. I would love that confirmation.
Exactly.
And may she rest in peace for sure. It seems that she's not, though, because her spirit does haunt the grounds. She is one that that people report frequent sightings of, and she seems, as you would understand, given her story, that she is quite tormented. So visitors have heard moaning and crying emanating from her tomb, and they also report seeing a beautifully dressed, ghostly apparition of a young woman wandering, looking dismayed.
Oh.
I know.
That one's rough.
It's a messed up story, so I apologize. This one's not a whole lot lighter, but then we'll bring it back. It's fascinating, though. So a lot of ghosts are trapped in spaces due to tragic circumstances, an unexpected tragedy, a untimely demise. This is, of course, if you believe in paranormal occurrences. It's a buy-in for this segment, right? Is to have some degree of at least curiosity, which I think we're both kind of in that camp. Where I don't have like a firm set of beliefs or understanding, but a curiosity and an awareness that like there are things that have happened that we cannot explain.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so not all ghosts are necessarily haunting the grounds or haunting a place because something bad has happened. And that is kind of the case of David Ayeno. I don't know if he's Spanish, but I'm going to say double L. I'm going to say Y. Try my best here. David Ayeno, he decided that he wanted La Recoleta to be his place forever. And he made sure to have that happen. So he was a gravedigger for La Recoleta for over 3 decades.
Whoa.
And as he approached his older years, he commissioned his statue to be built over his future gravesite. According to the legend, he dug a grave for himself before lying down inside, taking his own life, and fulfilling his goal of remaining at La Recoleta for eternity. Visitors of the cemetery say they have heard the sound of keys jangling on a ring, likely just David making his rounds.
I mean, it's this kind of a happy ending.
That's what he wanted.
I don't know what it should be.
It's pretty
some
dark,
reason.
a little bleak.
Yeah.
I hope he's having a good time. I hope he's happy. You know?
Me too.
That's all I want for everyone, is just to be happy.
Same.
So, these stories have been chilling. Pretty melancholic. Apologies. Really brought I'm just thinking, I was like, oh, this is the perfect one to pair with Final Destination. This is like the opposite energy from like goofy, funny, haha, death.
It's like
to
the
like,
most we've laughed in an episode.
This is dark. Yeah. I know. But there are other experiences of the paranormal at La Recoleta, and the ghosts don't really seem like they're not, I didn't read anything where it was like they're messing with you, they're trying to possess you or get bad things to happen to you. And I even found some reports of some like comforting, almost positive experiences there.
Whoa.
So we're going to talk about the most visited grave in La Recoleta, which is that of the beloved former First Lady of Argentina. Her name was Eva Perón, aka Evita. I am not a history buff. I had not heard of her, but she is a big deal in Argentinian history.
Didn't they write a musical about her?
Yeah.
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 It's a musical, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That came across when I was reading about this, and that is the extent of my knowledge about it.
Cool. Same.
And that maybe it was starring Madonna. I kind of was like,
kind of right.
I should fact check that because that seems weird. And then I was like, I don't have time. I can't keep going deeper and deeper down this metaphorical hole. Ashley is buried alive in research. Okay.
Ooh.
Anywho. So she
is buried. Well, she's not buried, and that's not how mausoleums work, but she is in a mausoleum. It's very elaborate, made of black marble. And people who visit her there describe a feeling of warmth often. Like they're just kind of feeling this little cozy vibe, which could just be because, like, if you love someone and you're feeling, I don't know, closeness to them, you get the warm fuzzies. Who knows?
Love this, yeah.
But yeah, that's nice. So it's like relatively wholesome compared to like what I've been throwing at you. But then I was like looking into her story just a little bit. So I was like, I feel like there's got to be like more here. There was just kind of like, like these comments that weren't going into detail, but were kind of alluding to a bigger story. And I was like, I'll just go try to see. And so I'm just going to read you what I wrote.
Oh.
If you want to read a story that includes a possible lobotomy found 50 years after death, an embalming, a corpse kidnapped and moved for 20 years, and a possible dead body watching over you as you eat dinner, then go ahead and read up more about Eva Perón's life and afterlife.
I mean, yes, I do kind of want to read that.
Kind of, but I was like, not today.
Yeah.
We're not doing that today. Yeah, very interesting, but such a twisted web that I was like, there is no way that I can sort this out in an afternoon and do it justice.
Wow.
Maybe will have to be its like own thing someday. But a very bizarre, interesting story. But eventually she was laid to rest after 20 years after being embalmed and bouncing around, being... I mean, I just laid it out for you a lot. A lot went down. I didn't make anything clear, but a lot went down, okay? And then she was finally laid to rest in La Recoleta, and many people like to go visit her there.
Lovely.
I'm gonna tell you about one more. It's a mixed... It's not great. Okay. It's a mixed bag, I was trying to say. You know, there's something kind of cute, basically. I'm just gonna get into it. The last notable gravesite I am going to tell you about at La Recoleta is the mausoleum of Liliana Crociati. It was constructed to look like her bedroom, like kind of a recreation of it, which I think is sweet. And then outside stands a life-size statue of her. And then after her dog passed away, they added a life-size bronze statue of her dog, which I think is
cute.
So sweet. And I was like, that is so wholesome. What a nice note to end on. And then I was like, well, who was she? Like, why are we talking about her? Her story's just tragic from what I saw. So she was killed in 1970 at the age of 26 on her honeymoon.
Oh.
I believe it was in Austria, and the hotel where they were staying was hit by an avalanche.
Oh my god.
And that is how she died.
Oh.
So on that note... But just think of the dog, the bronze dog. So
that is
cute.
Sweet. That is cute.
Very sad. Very sad. So there are many, as you can imagine, over acres and acres of this place. There are many notable, striking grave sites. Like, you could go there and spend more than a day if you wanted to, walking around and just taking it all in and looking up, you know, who's who. And I think they have some guided tours here and there, or self-guided ones too. But, you know, just keep in mind, it's still an active cemetery. This is people's final resting place and where families go to visit their loved ones. So, as always, just in general, keep it respectful. But it seems like a really nice place to visit if you are into that kind of thing.
All right, Ashley, what are we talking about next week?
Sarah, next week we are going to be covering one of my favorite all-time TV shows, and also the first TV show we're talking about on the podcast. We're going to be going to Cabot Cove, the murder capital of Maine. We're going to be talking about Murder, She Wrote.
I am so excited. And speaking of things I'm excited about, between now and then, make sure to check out our Substack.
Yeah, we did just send out our first rendition of our newsletter called The Haunted Monthly, and it's pretty cute. As you can tell from our podcast, we like to be cute, but then we also like to talk about things like Final Destination, and then be like, Grandma Comfort Watch TV show in a cozy coastal town, but also murder. It's like, you never know what's going to be in there. We don't even know, but it's going to be kind of creepy, kind of fun and very, very us. So
very us.
Make sure you check it out, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Haunted Homebodies. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
And remember, when in doubt, just stay home.